Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to both the ministers for appearing this morning. First to you, Minister McKinnon, just in your testimony, and notwithstanding the fact that I agree with you that our grocery shelves are full of goods because of transport, our truckers, I'm also going to equally say that probably because Canadians can't afford food. But that's just a point of interest. Minister, on October 7, 2025, this committee heard compelling testimony from witnesses who described the Driver Inc. model as, quote, the crisis that is destroying the trucking industry, causing carnage on our highways and robbing our social network of billions of dollars each year. Minister, just honestly, yes or no questions, please. In your capacity as Minister of Transport, have you met with the Ontario Minister of Transportation about this crisis?
Mr. Sarkaria and I have communicated back and forth, and our offices have. We will continue to obviously collaborate with Ontario. We have, as you can imagine, a number of major issues with Ontario that we want to solve together, and we'll do that. But I've visited your riding. I've visited the greenhouses in your riding. I've visited the temporary foreign workers who work in the greenhouses in your riding and the owners of those greenhouses who say that they could not possibly survive without those temporary foreign workers. And I just want to ask you, though, Mr. Lewis.
I had a very, very brief question.
I want to ask you, Mr. Lewis, do you approve of the stereotyping of temporary foreign workers that your colleagues just went through?
Minister, have you had any discussions?
It's an honest question for you.
Have you had any discussions? It's my floor. Thank you, Minister.
In your part of the world, you produce food.
Mr. Chair, colleagues, if I could just ask everybody to speak one at a time, just for the benefit of our interpreters who are having a very hard time trying to figure out what to translate.
Minister, have you had any discussions with Felix Fung?
I'm going to add 15 seconds.
Thank you very much. Minister, have you had any discussions with Felix Fung, the Assistant Deputy Minister of Transportation on the CCMTA regarding this crisis?
Well, I just want to finish off on my earlier
I would ask you questions, yes or no?
Sometimes
Please,
you got to
Minister,
take a stand.
Yes or no?
Sometimes you got to take a stand, Mr. Lewis.
I'm taking a stand right now. Just yes or no?
Do you approve of
so
your
the answer is no. Have you met with any of the boards of directors from CCTMA about this crisis? Do you approve of your colleagues' stereotyping of temporary foreign workers who are vital to the employment base in your riding and to feeding Canadians? So the answer is no. Okay. Thank you for that, Minister. So let's talk about my riding of Essex. And quite frankly, I know about the bread basket of Essex. You don't need to remind me. And thank goodness for those greenhouses, because they certainly put a lot of food on Canadians' table, but also on Americans' tables as well. And because of the price of food, thank goodness that they do that. My riding of Essex is next to the busiest international border crossing in North America. And earlier this year, a truck driver lost its load on County Road 42 and Banwell Road in my riding of Essex. But because you visited it, you must know exactly where it's at. There were tons and tons and tons of safety violations. Minister, what does Standard 16 mean?
I assume that you've spoken to Mr. Sarkaria about those safety violations.
What does Standard 16 mean, Minister?
So that he can talk to his colleagues in law enforcement.
So what does Standard 16 mean? Do you know?
Well, the first thing, if you're interested in solving the problem, Mr. Lewis, I suggest that Mr. Sarkaria,
so Standard 16,
perhaps I could introduce you.
Thank you, sir. So you don't know.
Mr. Sarkaria and I will talk to you about law enforcement on those highways that I've been down. I've visited those greenhouses. I've talked to those workers. I've seen those packaging plants. We're very proud of that industry in Canada.
As you should be.
That is an incredible industry
so
with incredible
16,
entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Minister. So Standard 16, let me just read it for you, means entry-level training class 1. What drivers must be trained in, like vehicle inspection and driving practices. Now, at least you're aware. Last question. How much time, Mr. Chair?
You have 1 minute left.
Thank you very much. My next question is for Minister Hadju.
Mr. Lewis, you agree that driver certification is a provincial responsibility, surely?
Well, I would suggest that because it's interprovincial, which is why my next question is for Minister Hadju.
Would you like us to federalize that issue? As Mr. Sarkaria,
and by the way, and I've heard you speak about Highway 11 and Highway 17, and I know that area very, very well. I spend a lot of time up in that area. Minister, we had some testimony back a couple of weeks ago. Just got to find my note here, Minister. There we go.
On October 7th, one witness, Johan Couture, Executive Director of the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada, testified before committee. I don't feel safe. I don't want to use routes 11 and 17. In light of this testimony and similar concerns raised by other women who appeared before this committee, do you have a response you would like to share with Ms. Couture and the woman who expressed fear for their safety on these routes?
Well, I would echo that fear. I'm driving down that road this weekend for an event in my very large riding, and I will tell you I'm very glad that there's no snow on the road, and there are times where, as a member of Parliament, I actually cancel visits to small communities in my riding because 1117 is the only route in, and there are portions of that road that are extremely treacherous. Now, the good news is that Ontario and Canada have invested in widening the road and increasing lanes, and in those parts, the safety obviously has increased. But that work has to continue, and I would suggest that, the federal government can be a strong partner in those infrastructure priorities that provinces are setting, not just obviously for safety, which I think should be our primary concern, but also for the economy of our country. And you will know, having traveled those roads, that actually there are ports that road that if it shuts down the trade for the entire country.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister.
In fact,
I just want to make sure I
Well,
give
thank you,
the
Mr.
final-
Chair, and thank you to the two ministers for appearing today. We're glad to see that our government is finally deciding to deal with this problem of driver ink. I'll begin with Ms. Hadou. Madam Hadou, you did a press conference to talk about various measures under Mr. Champagne, but this is surprising. You've been in power for 10 years. For years now, associations have been talking about this problem in the sector, and in September, we had a press conference with representatives from the sector, and we've kept on the tails of this problem. But it's all of a sudden now that you suddenly see what's going on, and you've come forward with measures. The announcements made today, are they strictly due to the work that was done because of the pressure that was exerted on you?
For the question, and I'm sure that's how some would like to characterize it, but as I said in my speech, we started this work in April of 2023, where we invested $26.3 million to fight misclassification in the federally regulated road transportation sector. As I said at that point, a national employee misclassification team was created. This was made up of labor standards inspectors.
Vous l'avez déjà dit, fait que je comprends ce que vous mentionnez, mais je veux juste...
I understand, but you're saying that you began the work back in 2023, and you, as shown in the economic statement of 2023. But, however, we see that, for instance, speaking of 2023, in May there was a press release that said that your government, and I quote,
never be used by the government. It's a deeply problematic term that unfairly maligns incorporated driver. Plus loin, on dit enforcement, however, will be educational in nature. There will not be targeted. Ce que je comprends par là, c'est que
the way I read it, there wasn't really any political will to take any action.
I think what perhaps that release, which I have not seen, would have been stating is that we don't want to stigmatize honest drivers in this sector. I mean, there are a ton of small businesses that we rely on every day that are a single person and their truck. And we need to keep those folks, and we don't want those folks to feel like they're part of the target that we're looking for. What we're looking for are the people that are conducting illegal activity. And so, as I said, since April 2023...
je suis d'accord avec vous, faut pas...
I agree.
As I said, so April 2023, there's been over 650 inspections and 129 cases of misclassification. And that's as a result of working in partnership with provinces and territories. A lot of this work is done on the road, in the way stations, with provinces and territories, looking at records of
Merci. Je comprends qu'il y a des inspections qui ont été faites, il y a de l'argent qui a été mis.
I understand that inspections have been done, money's been set aside, but on the ground, we don't see any changes. You're talking about what happened in 2023, and you talked about a few hundred inspections, but there are thousands of truckers out there, and fraud is right throughout the industry. So that's just a drop in the bucket, what you've done. And what's even worse, if we look at the data from your own department, 17 businesses have been penalized or given sanctions. Do you feel that that's adequate? Perhaps I could take that question. Obviously, you have Madame Hai, who gave a long list of measures that have been taken, and we will continue with this major initiative. In April, we shared the data. But as far as your question is concerned, yes, we know that deregulation really wreaked havoc with the sector, and there was a whole issue of inspectors and controllers, police, who we've done a sample, we target. Now we share data that's going to improve things. The success rate will go up. I do understand, but the problem is the government approach. We can see that the approach, this random approach, does not really, it's not really effective. This is a real big problem in the sector. You're dealing with a real problem here. At one point, you're going to have to take this matter seriously. 75% don't even pay the fines that have been given to them. So you can't be taking this seriously. What are you going to do to make sure that these people take you seriously? First of all, as we've just said, we've been working on this problem for a long time. We've worked with the Truckers Alliance, we worked with the sector, with the industry, and with individual truckers. And we've been doing so for a long time. As for the fines, there's work that remains to be done. We're going to look at these AMPs, which will help us strengthen the system and ensure that standards are complied with. They don't pay these fines. That's the problem. No, we're laying the foundation. Mr. Harper, in 2011, you will agree with that. He has created a problem. I think you would agree with that. Thank you, Mr. Barcelo-Duval. Next, we have Mr. Chair. Today, it's as if the government was waking up after 10 years of being asleep. So all of a sudden, the switch has gone on and you get this lightning bolt. Mr. McKinnon, we're talking about 1 out of 10 measures. So 1 of the 10 requests have been achieved. Can you tell me what got you to realize what was going on? Religious metaphor this morning? Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Barcelo. As I said to you earlier, and it might surprise you to read La Presse and Le Devoir today, to read the press release. Well, 2 weeks ago, you were just saying that it was a provincial matter. I never said that. We have clips. Well, the proof is the press release that your colleague, Mr. Groslo, just read, and other Conservative colleagues just read. So we take this matter very seriously, and we have done so for a long time. Today, and the next suite of measures are going to be announced. We're being proactive. The last measure was announced back in April of this year. You see that the government takes this issue very seriously. But I had a more specific question. I was asking about, you're talking about your budget requests? Well, 1 of the 10 measures have been dealt with. What about the other 9 measures? Will you send me your other 9 requests? With pleasure, Minister. The sharing information, that's good. But there are certain issues that come under completely under provincial jurisdiction. So contact them. We have done a check on this, and what I can say is that what you've announced today, you said that you were you're a full-time Minister of Transport. You said this in your opening statement. And you have 6,000 employees, but no measure has come from you today that comes under Transport Canada. Personally, your hands are empty. Or do you intend to issue any changes that deal with Transport Canada? We're the catalyzer. We are partners with federal agencies and departments.
Non, je peux.